Okay, this is a video on number 55 on your work. I'm going to do it and hope that you can do it and then go back and look at 53 and figure out how to do it because it's similar. It's just not quite as messy as this one. All right, so we have s plus 2 squared minus s minus 2 squared. Okay. And we're supposed to, the instructions tell us to factor each expression as a difference of two squares and then simplify it. Now, if you look at this, this is something squared minus something else squared. It's just that it's really sloppy, isn't it? Because there's several terms in the parentheses. Instead of just having x squared minus 25, we got a whole bunch of stuff squared in each parentheses, or at least two things squared. So if you think about it, what goes inside the parentheses, if you remember this first parentheses, whatever goes inside of it is what we're going to put, like, let me use some color coding here. Whatever is squared here, if you think about it, I'm having issues here. Whatever is squared here is what goes here in your first two slots. And then we have a plus, and we have a minus. And then whatever goes in that second, square thing is what goes here and here. Instead of it just being one number or one letter, though, it's going to be a couple of terms. So if we go back and we look at this, what's in this square here? It's s plus 2, so s plus 2, and you can put it in parentheses if you want to. Probably be a good idea to do it just for good habits. Goes here, and then it goes in the first spot over here. Okay. Now I've got my plus sign and my minus sign, and now I've got to decide what to put in the second slot. Well, what is in that? What's the second thing that's squared? It's this whole s minus 2, isn't it? Which is hard for my iPad to pick up here. So I'm going to put s minus 2 in the second spot, but it's a whole thing. It's like two terms. That whole parenthesis is one whole thing. All those terms are married together with those subtraction signs or those adding signs that are in them, and so we have to pick them up and use the whole thing. Now, that's pretty sloppy looking, but what happens is stuff cleans up inside. So let's look in the first parentheses. You have a s, a plus a 2, and then an s minus 2. Well, if you can combine like terms in that parentheses, you've got 2s. You had a plus 2, but then you turn right around and subtracted 2. Plus 2 minus 2 is 0, so I could put 2s plus 0, or I could just write 2s. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just leave it as 2s. Now let's look in the second parentheses. Let's combine like terms there. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. This is one of the reasons why I went ahead and put parentheses around these terms when I put them in, even though so far we hadn't really seen that I needed to worry about it so much. I have an s plus 2. But now look, this subtraction sign has to get applied to both things in that parentheses. It has to get distributed. So it's a minus s, and then minus a minus 2 would be a plus 2. So we still got to do a little simplifying. I don't need all that space for that 2s. As a matter of fact, I really don't need the parentheses around that 2s as long as I put what's in the second parentheses there. Because, I could put it still in there if I wanted to show it in parentheses, but I don't have to. If you look in the second parentheses, what happens here is that the s and the minus s, those end up adding to 0. Don't they cancel out? And I have 2 plus 2 is 4. Oh, wow, I have 2s times 4. That's just 8s. Wow, that was faster than you might think, okay? I'm going to go ahead and work a few more. Whatever I can fit on this video in the time span I can get it in is what I'll do. We have a to the 2n. And we may have worked 57 in some of these in class. Minus b to the 2n. Now, is this the difference of two squares? Can I write it as something squared minus something else squared? Now, we got to remember our exponent rules. Let's look first at this a to the 2n here. I'll kind of do that work in red. Looking at this term right here. With exponents, if I want to divide that 2 out, I could write this as, isn't a to the n squared the same thing as a to the 2n? Think about the rule, 2 times n is 2n. So if I wanted to divide the 2 out, that would tell me what I would need to have left in my parentheses. You can see that it's equal once you write it. Sometimes it's just hard to figure out what you were supposed to put in there. Okay, likewise on the b term, I could write b to the n and it be squared, because n, that exponent of n raised to a 2 would be 2n. So if I wanted to figure out what went in there, I could have just up here said what divide this, whatever's here, by 2. Write the 2 on the outside, and then write what's left on the inside. That's how I could have figured out what went inside of here, where I just wrote that b to the n. I have two things that are squared subtracted. So if you remember, the difference of two squares pattern says since it fits that pattern, there's a subtraction sign and there's two squares, then this, what's inside the parentheses, a to the n, is going to go here. If I can get my iPad to take it, I'm writing it, it just isn't taking it, and it goes here. Now remember, I need a plus on one of these things, and I need a minus on the other, and could have been the other way around. And then what's in the second spot is, what goes in the second spot in the factors is what was inside that we squared, or the square root of whatever we started with. And I have this, and so I'm done now. That's how that factors out. So that was 55, 57, let's look at 59. For 59, and some of these we did in class. I'm hoping that you have those already. That one may have been one we did in class, this one right here, but I'll go ahead and put it on a video just so it's there for future classes also. For 59, we have u to the 4n minus 4v to the 2n. Okay, so we see there's a subtraction sign, so there's a good chance that this is a difference of two squares. I first checked, there's nothing to divide out of it. You always got to check to see if there's anything you can divide out first. Now, if this first term, this u to the 4n, if it's a square, if it's a perfect square, I should be able to write something in here that when I square it, I get 4n back. So if I want to figure out what it is, if I take 4n and I divide it by 2, that's going to reduce, isn't it, to 2n. So that's what I'm going to put in here, u to the 2n power. Now I go over here and let's do the same thing. Let's look at the second term. First of all, to get that 4, I could say that's 2 squared. So let me take care of that separately, and then we'll think about this. Now I've got v to the 2n. If I want to know what I would square to get 2n, I could say take that 2n and divide it by 2, because this, remember, on exponents on the outside, we have a power to a power, we multiply them. So if I'm trying to figure out what I need to put in there, I need to divide that 2 out. That would just be n. So I'd have v to the n. So I can write this as a difference of two squares pattern, because I've got it written as 2 squares. So I'm going to write this. I'm going to put a plus on one. Let me just put it over here just to show that I can, and a minus here. And then in the first spot, remember, I write what was squared, not the whole thing. It was u to the 2n. U to the 2n. You stick it in both the first spots. And then for the second spot, I wrote what was squared. It was 2v to the n that was squared. 2v to the n. Okay? And that's factored, and I'm done. Try to fit one more on here, as I think we went to 61. I can't quite, let me look. Yeah, we did 61. Okay, that was on there. X to the 4n, we're going to do this the same way as we did the last problem, minus y to the 4n. Good chance it's a difference of two squares because there's a subtraction sign. So can I rewrite it as something squared minus something else squared? Okay, well, let's first look at this first term. If I can rewrite it, it's going to have to be x to something that when I square it, I get 4n. And because with a power to a power, you're going to multiply those two exponents, I'm going to divide out the 2 to see what it would be that I would need to put in there. Oh, that's 2n. So this would be x to the 2n. Okay, and then we'll go over to that y to the 4n. Same, we actually did something similar like this on the last problem. Some of the same numbers even are showing up here. 4n divided by 2 is the same thing, right? Wouldn't it be y to the 2n? So I can rewrite this. One with a plus, one with a minus, and all I got to do is that red term, I'm going to copy it in the first spot of each of these parentheses. And that green term, the thing that was squared for the second thing, I'm going to copy it here. And I'm going to copy it here. Okay? Now, the thing about it is, we aren't done, because I know this first thing here, the first parentheses, I can't do anything with it because it's got a plus sign in it. But can I keep going? And in this problem, the thing I got to look at is the exponent divisible by 2. The first one I can't do anything with, again. It's got a plus sign and we can't factor those. But this second one actually will factor down. Because think about it. Let me come off to the side down, come here to the bottom. X to the 2n minus y to the 2n. Couldn't I rewrite that as x to the n squared? N times 2 is 2n, isn't it? I could divide 2n by 2 and I'd say, oh, there's an n that's left there that I could square. Same thing over here. I can rewrite that as a square. If I take that exponent and divide that 2 out, it would be y to the n. So I can see that this will factor further. So I got another difference of 2 squares. Let me put a plus, let me put a minus. And I kind of did the work down at the bottom. I'll kind of use some color. This is what this right here, the first term, remember we're going to put that in this new, the 2 new first spots. You're going to write this first thing, we wrote it down, this right here, I wrote it down, but then I'm kind of almost ignoring it, and I'm looking at this x to the n minus y to the 2n that I've worked out here at the bottom. I'm almost looking at it as a new separate problem, but I got to keep up with all the old stuff, okay? Now, I still got, let me use it, I'll use purple here. I got this y to the n down here, and it's in the second spot, so it's going to go here and here. And the reason I know I'm done is that none of these, I still, if I wanted to factor this one further, I couldn't because it's got a plus sign. I checked this one right here, this last parentheses. N is not, there's not, that exponent, I can't divide it by 2 anymore, so I know I'm done. So that's my answer. I'll circle it in yellow. All this right here is my answer, okay?